Tour guides of Reddit. What is the dumbest question someone asked during a tour? Tourists in Dutch windmills always ask where the engine is. They don't believe the wind can rotate the blades for some reason. This gets asked way too often. Asterisk windmills are machines that mill air and turn it into wind. Right? Asterisk. Wind has to come from somewhere. Trees sneezing. Once had a woman insist that she needed to spray herself with my bear spray because I could not make her understand that it does not work the same as insect repellent. She decided against taking the tour and called to yell at my boss over my refusal to spray her with bear spray. At what point do you just spray her with the bear spray? Well, obviously, if she tries to steal your picnic basket. My girlfriend worked at the Sherlock Holmes Museum in London, at 221B Baker Street, and apparently a surprising number of fully grown adults are under the impression that Sherlock Holmes is an actual living person who really lives there. The worst part was that they weren't allowed to disabuse the guests of their misconception, so when the guests would ask, "Where is Sherlock Holmes?" she'd have to say something like, "Oh, he's just out on a case at the moment." Seriously weird TBH. I'm very happy that the museum entertains these people. I can imagine the arguments these people get into about the reality of Sherlock Holmes when they get back home. I was a park ranger working at the information desk. A woman approached me to get a map. While we were talking, a bell started ringing. She asked about the bell and I told her it was in the clock tower and that it rang out the time every hour on the hour. She asked how many times it would toll, so I looked at my watch and said 12. She then said, 12? Why 12? What's the significance? I said, it's noon. Used to give tours of a historic wooden grain elevator and farm buildings from the early 1900s. Had a guest ask, "Isn't it amazing how much healthier everyone was back then? Before we had all these chemicals?" At the time, we were standing next to a machine that was used to coat grain with formaldehyde to make it last longer. Oh God, I miss the good old days when everyone died of polio. Worker safety and child labor laws were non-existent. Asbestos, lead, and arsenic were in literally everything. And grain elevators were consistent fire traps that occasionally exploded and blew everyone inside to kingdom come. Yes, we all lived so much longer back then. All post for my Scotland tour guide. So a few tours before my group was another group of Americans. This one bunch was quite observant and were having a great time. Looking at farmland and such. This one lady spots a sheep with a dyed spot of wool and with all seriousness. She asks, "Is that the way to tell what color wool the sheep will grow into?" Bless the tour lady for her response. Yes, keep an eye out for the tartan sheep. They are lovely this time of year. Quote, I was a tour bus driver up in Juneau, Alaska. I did exclusively cruise ship passengers and most of them were older and chose to go on a cruise ship because everything is taken care of for them and they don't need to think, so naturally I got a bunch. The most common ones were, "Do you guys take American money? What elevation are we at?" This was immediately after they got off their ship. Or, "Why is the glacier so dirty?" The worst one I ever heard though was, "What does clear weather have to do with flying safely?" This was after a woman unloaded on me because her helicopter tour got cancelled because of fog and was looking for someone to yell at. I didn't even work for that company. I'm taking my second Alaskan cruise at the end of the month. I actually looked into taking the ferry from Washington. The ferries are significantly more expensive than to just take a 7-day, fully inclusive cruise. I easily would have camped out on the ferry. But you need to have more money to take the ferry than an actual cruise. I once worked as a tour guide in Edinburgh. At 1 p.m. every day the 1 o'clock gun is fired from Edinburgh Castle. I have been asked more times than I can count. What time does the 1 o'clock gun go off? I also love being asked when Scottish people celebrate New Year's Eve. I thought she was joking, so I said the 25th of July. She wasn't joking. Well, at an American living in the UK, I have been asked too many times. When is the 4th of July this year? I think it's because I always have a 4th of July barbecue and a Thanksgiving dinner and they get confused which is which. But it always makes me laugh. It didn't help that the 4th was on a Thursday this year. You are holding a 4th of July barbecue in the UK. That's a bold move, my man. We are still hurting from that loss. Surprised no one's mugged UM8. I work at a zoo and I was giving a tour which my 4-year-old cousin was on and I was holding a snake for everyone to see. Afterward, when I was giving everyone hand sanitizer, he asked me how to make snakes. A different time a woman asked me if the animals were animatronic and I laughed, then she said I'm serious. In my head I was like, bitch, does that moving elephant really look animatronic to you? But I couldn't say that, so I just said no. I have an endless amount of these stories. Some pretty strange people come to the zoo, I guess. Not a tour guide. But my mom told me about a tour she had gone on in Central, South America. I don't remember exactly where. They were touring some ancient sites. The tour guide said that the people who used to live there had come from distances as far away as modern-day Utah. One woman asked, "Oh, were they Mormon?" The tour guide was apparently flabbergasted and eventually went, no, quote. Not me, but my mom worked as a concierge in a mountainous town with a lot of wildlife, and more than a couple people have asked her if they put the animals into the mountains at night. I have so many. To date, the stupidest thing was when someone brought a live turtle they found in one of our botanical gardens to the front door of the European Art Gallery and asked where they should put it. Like, I dunno. Maybe back where you found it. Lol. Poor turtle. I work at the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum, giving tours, playing Sam Adams and John Hancock, etc. Immediately following the tour, which wraps up with a movie about the Battle of Lexington and Concord. A guest turned to me and asked, "So who won?" Great question. So the regulars suffered more casualties, but were ultimately successful in finding No, I mean the war. America. She was from the Midwest. Not a tour guide, but once went on a trip to Swaziland, now known as Eswatini, with the dumbest adult woman I've ever met. It was a mission trip, so we were there to work, but she just kept asking about shopping, refusing to touch dirty things or try cultural experiences. We get to the sightseeing safari, no killing of animals, and we get about halfway through our ride when she taps the tour guide, TG, on the shoulder and asks, "So when are we going to see the tigers? TG, tigers, lady, yeah, tigers. IDK, what you people call it? Like a lion but with stripes? TG, no tigers in Africa. Lady, yes there are. I promised my kids I'd see tigers and bring back a picture of me petting one. TG, no tigers in Africa. Please do not pet the lions." She spent the rest of the trip bitching about not being able to see tigers on the wrong fucking continent. ETA, formatting. I used to work at a miniatures museum in Victoria, BC. Someone once asked me how we shrink all the items. That person was 100% fucking with you. Not a tour guide, but I was in a tour one time. Part of a school trip to the Pickering nuclear power plant. Before we went, there were girls in our class who absolutely refused to believe that the point of a nuclear reactor was to boil water. That's stupid. You can plug a kettle in to boil water. That doesn't make electricity. After the whole tour of the steam generator, turbines, and generator room, the tour guide asked, "Any questions?" And one of the girls asked, "So how does that make electricity?" And it was literally like that scene from Zoolander. But why male models? Seriously? I just explained it all.